Hello and welcome to In Defense of a Movie podcast. My name is Dan, and today we're going to be talking about 2023's Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey. Joining me, as always, is Aaron.
I love me some blood and honey.
This movie sits on Rotten Tomatoes at 3% and an audience score of 50%.
Possibly, is this our worst rated movie that we've ever attempted to tackle here, Dan?
It's close. It's really close. I'm pretty sure that Master of Disguise still takes the cake.
Wow. I can't believe that. I definitely thought this one was the worst movie.
If I remember correctly, I'll have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure Master of Disguise is 2%.
Wow. That should be higher.
It definitely should be. Yeah. Which is why, if you haven't listened to that episode, you should go back and check it out and see what our thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is our second micro-budget horror film that we've done on this podcast. The first being Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And now, as we head into spooky season, we are talking about an entirely different animal slash hybrid slash beloved bear.
Yes.
So how you doing, Aaron?
Not too bad. What about you? Did you like this movie, Dan, here?
Well, I'll tell you what. This is either the beginning of something really interesting or just a completely cynical cash grab.
Yeah. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, the question I really want to drill down on in this episode is this admirable or is this just cultural vandalism? And I'm hoping by the end of our discussion, we'll have an answer to this.
You know what? That's really interesting that you say that because I feel like if you could sum up this movie, that's how you would sum it up. It's one or the other.
One or the other, yeah. This movie is the beginning of what Jagged Edge Productions is calling the Twisted Childhood Universe. So as time goes on here, it's going to be increasingly difficult to look at this movie as a standalone thing, especially after watching the second one, Aaron. There's more than meets the eye to this series, and as we get into it, I don't know, I'm cautiously optimistic that this could actually be something really interesting.
Oh, totally.
So, Aaron.
Yeah.
What are your preliminary thoughts on Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey? Did you go see this in the theater?
No, I didn't. I think back when this movie was originally announced, I feel like you and I kind of texted about it. Just, sending each other screenshots of the poster or whatever. And I think that was around the first time that I heard about this movie. But it got me really, really excited because obviously you and I are both huge fans of Thanksgiving. So another shameless plug here. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. Very good. And we also do an interview with it's the director.
Yeah, Jordan Downey.
Yeah. So definitely go check that out. But anyways, for this movie, it definitely gave me Thanksgiving vibes, which got me really excited. I love a low-budget B-movie, slasher horror movie. So when I first heard about this, I was just so excited to watch it. I actually hadn't seen this movie before, and only watched it in for this episode of the podcast. But usually I like to do a little bit of research about the movie beforehand, and then I watch the movie. But this movie, I thought, it's probably better just going into it blind and not really knowing anything.
Yeah.
For me, it checked a lot of boxes, right? It had that, that campy feeling. It had the bad acting. It had like the raunchiness, and not to mention all the gore that was there. And so for me, it ticked a lot of boxes. But I think like as the whole movie went on, it was almost like a WTF moment, the whole entire movie, where I was just like, this is kind of dark. This is kind of like morbid. And I was I don't know how to feel about this. And so that's kind of, that's my thoughts on it anyways, or going into it.
I agree. I thought it was surprisingly mean-spirited and dark for what it was. Yeah. It didn't have any of the humor or self-awareness, I think, that, say, Thanksgiving had.
Yeah, no, none of that.
It was way too serious, perhaps, for what it is.
I thought, okay, if you've got Winnie-the-Pooh killing people with a knife, it has to go down like the fun and the silly and the just make it really enjoyable. So like it's a film which works really well when you watch it with a crowd.
There's two places I could start. I could start with like the history of Winnie-the-Pooh as a character really briefly, or talk about the director, because both are on this weird collision course that made this movie happen.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start with the history of Winnie-the-Pooh.
So Winnie-the-Pooh was a beloved novel by A.A. Milne that was published in 1926. And since then has grown and evolved into one of the biggest icons on planet Earth. And obviously, Disney purchased the rights to use the character a long, long time ago. And Winnie-the-Pooh was popularized the way we see him today as the yellow beloved bear with the red t-shirt, shirt cocking it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's something that you might not know. Aaron, this is a list of the highest grossing media franchises of all time. Okay, check this out. Topping the list is Pokemon with $98.8 billion in revenue. Below that is Mickey Mouse and Friends at $61.2 billion. And believe it or not, in third place is Winnie-the-Pooh at $48.5 billion.
The list I read went Pokemon, Hello Kitty, Winnie-the-Pooh. But it was third either way.
Winnie-the-Pooh, as a global brand, has brought in more money than Star Wars.
That's
by
crazy.
Like $2 billion.
That is like such a wild thing to think. Not only...
It is wild.
Not only because like, also Star Wars has, like, it's so marketable, right? Like I saw BB-8 oranges.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And you're telling me that it brought in more money than Star Wars. Wow.
Yeah, well, Winnie-the-Pooh has the advantage of time on its side.
Oh,
because
yes,
it's been
of
around
course.
since like the 20s, right?
Yeah.
But everybody knows and likes Winnie-the-Pooh.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody had a Winnie-the-Pooh doll or a stuffed animal growing up.
Yeah.
You'd be hard pressed to find anybody on this planet that legitimately was like, I hate Winnie-the-Pooh.
Yeah, that's actually a valid point. Do you think that this could be kind of like a litmus test for whether someone is like a good or a bad person? Be like, do you like Winnie-the-Pooh? If you say no, you're a psycho.
Right? Well, I love the characters in Winnie-the-Pooh.
Yeah.
But I've always found the movies are a bit meandering and a bit like a little bit dry for me. Like even our daughter, 4-year-old daughter, won't sit through Winnie-the-Pooh. It's just a little bit too low impact for her.
Oh yeah.
I don't think Winnie-the-Pooh has kept up with like the TikTok generation.
No. It seems very true to like the original.
Yeah. But to say this is a beloved icon is too small. It's too small a word. This is like a global phenomenon at this point. It's wild because I highly doubt that A.A. Milne could have predicted this like 100 years ago.
Yeah. In researching this movie, my thoughts were like, I wonder what they would have thought about this movie. Like, would they approve or would they be like, oh my God, like, what have you done?
What is this? Blasphemy?
Yeah.
I know. Well, as has been well documented, Winnie-the-Pooh has now entered the public domain, as has the original Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. A lot of these characters are entering the public domain.
Yeah.
And no sooner than they do, you have people like Rhys, Frake-Waterfield, who are taking advantage of this for financial gain. Aaron, I was actually shocked to see how much Winnie-the-Pooh as a brand has brought in.
Yeah. It was very shocking to me as well.
So having said all that, we need to talk about Rhys Frake-Waterfield and ITN Studios. Rhys Frake-Waterfield is I hope I'm saying his name right, by the way, is the director of this film. He's also a producer, writer, does virtually everything. He had a background in like business and finance, I believe, and then got into essentially what are these micro-budget horror movies. And within 2 years have produced somewhere between 40 and 50 movies.
Oh, wow.
These kind of movies are kind of like the sediment at the bottom of less discerning streaming services.
Yeah, like the Shutters or whatever.
Totally. They're movies that you might find in like a Walmart bargain bin.
Yeah.
Or like...
$5 for $5 or something like that, some deal.
Totally. But the thing is, the market for these films is hugely, hugely successful. ITN Studios has put out more than 500 films. and they do about 96 films per year.
Holy smokes. That's a machine right there.
Yes, so they don't get theatrical release,
Yeah.
but they make up sales in Walmart, foreign sales, VOD, basically wherever they can pawn these things off is where they distribute them. And it's incredible. It's an extraordinary machine because they don't even know how many people are watching these things. They just see like the money kickback.
Yeah.
Aaron, you know those like asylum films where they take like IPs or they take like famous movies and just change the title just a little bit just to like sell them or whatever?
Yeah, very popular in like other countries, right?
So that business model led to this micro horror budget model.
Yeah.
Where they'll take IPs like, you know, stuff like Krampus or the Candyman or like Gingerbread Man.
Yeah.
Just recognizable stuff. They put a horror spin on it. They go out and they film it for like pennies, and then they sell it, and then they make money off of it. It's extraordinary, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of these movies cluttering up the airways.
So when the product's on the actual shelf in like a store like Walmart or so, people will look at it and go, oh, I know that nursery rhyme, I know that fable, and I haven't seen that concept before, so I'm more interested in buying it now, rather than it just being a low-budget zombie film.
What Rhys Frake-Waterfield stumbled onto is this idea of like, wait a minute, Winnie-the-Pooh is entering public domain.
Yeah.
This could actually be something. This is a hugely popular, beloved character, and nobody had done this yet.
Yeah.
So, let me just say this. This is the first theatrical film release by ITN Studios out of their entire film catalog because it became a meme. It became a like an internet sensation.
Yeah.
People saw the poster. Articles came out about it. It opened up this huge conversation about cultural vandalism, about is this right? Is this wrong? Should we stop this? And just like that, you have a film with a budget of $500,000 go on to do $7.7 million at the box office.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Like it's approximately in 4,000 screens or so, which is absolutely wild.
An insane story, but genius at the same time. And now, Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey has kicked off. Obviously, they're going to strike while the iron's hot. So this has kicked off.
Oh, you got to.
In Marvel fashion, they've released a film slate. Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey, Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, which I watched for the sake of this podcast. And future movies include Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, Pinocchio Unstrung, and then the entire thing's culminating in an Avengers-style movie called Pooniverse Monsters Assemble in later 2025.
That's actually what I call my bathroom. Or the loo for you British folks.
Also, Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey Part 3 has been announced to take place after the Pooniverse movie, but no word yet on if it's called Blood and Pooh.
I hope so.
We predicted it here first.
How many poo jokes can I make, Dan? Because I want to be tasteful, right?
You're gonna set some sort of Guinness record.
Yeah. No. We can't do that. We want people to listen to our podcast. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. All that stuff. I kind of found the same thing when I was going through looking up for this movie. So, with all of that being said, Dan, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a cultural abomination, or do you agree with what they did here?
Well, if I had just watched the movie and taken it at face value, popped it on, I wouldn't have thought much of it. In fact, if it wasn't for this becoming the phenomenon it became, I never would have watched this.
Yeah.
Because I don't typically watch micro-budget horror. A lot of it's just like, people running around in the woods, right? Like it's really not that good of quality.
No.
But because this is what it is, let me just put it this way. If I had just watched this on its own some lazy afternoon, I'm not even sure that I would have finished it, to be honest with you. But once I put it in a larger context, once I watched the second one and looked at all the behind the scenes stuff, suddenly the whole thing started to seem really genius and funny to me. And especially in watching interviews with the director, I actually had a lot more respect for him than I thought I would. And so I think at the end of the day, because it is in the public domain and because it's been 100 years and Disney's still doing what they do with that character and treating it with the respect it needs over there. So, no, I'm totally fine with this. You know, like there's a market for this. People love micro-budget horror films.
Yeah.
And if it's all legal and it's all, above board, like, sure, why not? Have some fun with it. I'm okay with that, yeah.
No, that was my thoughts as well. I feel like, with our day and age and everything being like a remake or a sequel or a prequel, like a lot of original ideas aren't out there.
I kind of fell in love with it, and then I read the script and I play Alice and I fell in love with the character, and I was like, oh my God, I need to be involved in this project. It's crazy, but I'm totally here for it. Nowadays, it's really difficult to find a film that's actually an original idea. Something unique, because everything's either a prequel or a sequel or a franchise or a remake.
Now, this is not an original idea whatsoever. In fact, he's obviously copying like the MCU with like their whole rollout and everything. But we're seeing the character in an original way. And that's kind of what I liked about this movie, because it wasn't. And you know what? Were you a Winnie-the-Pooh fan growing up as a kid? Because I'd say I remember some of my cousins were more into it. I think I wasn't a huge fan. Like you said, it was a little too slow for me.
Yeah.
So I had no real strong ties to the character Winnie-the-Pooh. I wasn't like, you're ruining him. I was excited. I was legitimately excited to see what they were going to do with this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm also very, very curious, because you say you watched the second movie.
Yes.
I'm very curious to how that movie went out, because I didn't end up watching it. And the way that the first movie felt is there was a lot of, I don't know, plot holes, if you want to call them, or just things that didn't add up, or it really seems like Winnie the Pooh's reaction in this entire movie is an overreaction.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the second movie kind of fleshes it out a little bit.
Totally. My thoughts on the second one really solidify my overall opinion of what they did here. So just by the second movie existing, it essentially defends the entire first movie.
Okay.
Tell you what, let's do this. Let's unpack the cast a little bit and the plot of this film, and then we'll pick it up.
Okay. So we got Nikolai Leon as Christopher Robin, Maria Taylor as Maria, Natasha Rose Mills as Jessica, Amber Doig Thorne. Sorry, terrible with names. I want to say Amber Dong Thorne, but let's go with that. Danielle Ronald. I'm really off today. And we got Natasha Tusini as Laura. Paula Coy.
Aaron, are you having a stroke?
Maybe. I don't know why you always make me read the names. I'm terrible.
because it's pretty funny. I haven't heard any feedback about it, but I think it's funny. So.
Just me sweating bullets trying to pronounce names. Okay, and then we got Paula Coys as Mary, May Kelly as Tina, Danielle Scott as Charlene, and then we have, for the people playing the characters, we got Xi Jinping as Winnie the Pooh. Did I say his name right? That's the president of China. That was a joke there. Because they call him Winnie the Pooh. No, that didn't land.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, but actually, we got Craig David. I'm having a real hard time. Craig David Dowsett as Winnie the Pooh. Chris Cordell as Piglet, and you know what? That's good enough. That's pretty much the bulk of the characters.
Think you get the point. You get the point.
There's people in here, and they're acting and doing stuff, and it's pretty good.
Well, oh my goodness, I'm like crying.
Hopefully,
hopefully
our listeners' ears aren't bleeding too much after that.
Okay, so what happens in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Oh. I think this movie is just about people with poor communication skills. Oh, no, wait. It's about a lesbian retreat. No, okay. So, obviously, it's about the beloved characters, Winnie-the-Pooh, Piglet. I believe Owl made a cameo. And who was the other one?
I'm pretty sure we see Eeyore's tail at one point.
Yeah, so we got our lovable characters. Obviously, Christopher Robin, who is their friend. And he basically goes off to college and leaves them. And while he leaves them, I guess they believe that he abandoned them. And then the movie kind of picks up, he's getting married, and I guess his wife, or his fiance, I should say, thinks that he's going absolutely insane, which is like a really weird opening and kind of where I'm like, I don't know, like this lady you're gonna marry this lady, but like at the same time, she thinks you're crazy, and you definitely do seem crazy, but you're not crazy. And I was like, this marriage isn't gonna last. So probably a good thing she got murdered. Save this guy some time. But yeah, so that's kind of the opening of the movie. And then it kind of fast forwards to this group of girls who, Dan, please clarify for me, was it not like 3 couples of lesbians? Because I was trying to figure out the dynamic and I don't know.
Honestly, it lost me. There was at least 1, maybe 2, and I don't know about the third. I was really confused.
Yeah, I'm assuming for the third because like it was that girl and she was obviously talking to her on the phone, and then later you see her getting murdered.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure her and the girl in the pool were an item.
Yeah.
Sorry, very irrelevant. Just found it interesting to this entire story.
No, it is interesting. It's definitely a unique choice for sure.
Yeah,
for a movie like this.
Exactly. But yeah, so they go to this, and I assume it is some sort of retreat because in the movie, one of the girls gets them all together here, and then she starts telling them this very traumatic story, and she has been a victim of a stalker, and like a very creepy sounding stalker like crawled into her room and tried to undress her while she was sleeping. So like a very, very traumatic thing that she went through. And it seems like she got a group of her friends together and they went out to the woods, to the 100-acre area to, get away from it all and, so she can confide in her friends and feel the support of her friends. But turns out Winnie-the-Pooh has something to say about that, and it is murder. And so, yeah, that's basically where the movie takes off, where he just starts like murdering all these women, and he catches Christopher Robin and locks him up, and they eventually find him, and it's just one big misunderstanding cluster of them trying to get away from him.
Just a big old honey bath.
Yeah, but not the good kind.
Yeah.
It's like honey and then ants thrown on you right after.
Fire ants?
Yeah, fire ants on you. You're getting bit.
So I had read that they had originally shot this movie in 8 days. And then I saw an interview where they were talking about how once the posters and the initial posters started to go really viral, the studio kind of went back to them and said, look, you need more Pooh in this film. You got to have more Pooh.
Yeah.
And so they actually went back and reshot a bunch of it and added Pooh wherever they could, and then really focused more on the Christopher Robin relationship at the end. So I thought that was interesting. They actually took a studio note, and there's Pooh all over this movie now. So before I derail us on essentially talking about the second one, because the second one, I'm biting my lip not jumping into talking about it right away because I really feel like it course corrects this entire thing.
Yeah.
But let's hone in specifically on this film as a standalone film. Aaron, what would you like to defend about this particular entry?
Well, what I'd personally like to defend about it is, like I said earlier, just obviously that it's a new take on a beloved character. I love that someone's out there just thinking about doing something a little bit different. So for me, bold choice. Was it like a hit? No, it wasn't a hit, but I love that he took the chance to create this movie. I also love, after seeing Disney ruin so many of my beloved characters from like my childhood, Star Wars, I'm very happy to see somebody ruining a beloved Disney character because of Disney.
It's a little bit of revenge, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that was like why I was especially excited about this movie.
At the end of the day, like the characters came into the public domain last January. We're using the Pooh and the Piglet from A.A. Milne's books, not the Disney version. So there's not really anything that they can say, but it would be really interesting to see if they liked it. I would love to know that.
Before I say my next part here, what were your thoughts on it overall?
Well, one of the things that jumped out at me right away was the cinematography. Vince Knight was the director of photography, and even though all of his film credits are micro-budget horror just like this, I really felt like he really elevated the material of this movie. Like, so many of these micro-budget horror films look really cheap, and this film had great contrast, it had great coloring, it had really good shot composition. The camera didn't really do anything too interesting, but as far as a micro-budget horror film goes, this film I thought looked and it looked great.
Yeah.
And I thought the acting, though uneven, like I didn't like Christopher Robin so much, but
yeah, he was a little slow seeming, hey?
Yeah, but like Jessica, Mary, Maria, all them, like I thought they were great and fine. I like the therapist character.
Yeah.
And one thing I really want to defend in this movie is the music. And I thought the music was fantastic. This is probably a good time to jump into it, but Aaron, we have got to talk about the violin.
The violin, yeah. So why don't you take us off, Dad? Because you're obviously you're the more musically inclined one. So yeah, let's hear your thoughts on the violin.
I wonder what the violin is going to be like. Is it going to be covered in bees and honey and nasty, or is it just going to be a regular violin because the bees have ignored it and don't like it? I'm hoping that it's like as messy as possible and that I have to put tarps down in my studio to record because there's just like honey and beehive debris falling off while I record this music.
So this is insane. And this is actually more interesting than the whole movie itself. So buckle up for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people know this. I certainly didn't know this. So, you watch a micro-budget horror film, and there's going to be music in it, obviously. You figure it's going to be canned or just, synthesized or whatever. You don't think too much of it. But for some reason, the composer of this film, okay, they decide that for this movie, they were going to put the body of a violin inside a beehive.
Yeah.
And let the bees essentially honeycomb the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And cover it in larvae and honey. And then, what was it, a couple months later, they
took it out.
They took it out.
Yeah.
They filled the entire inside. Wow. It's pretty crazy.
And the entire inside of it was covered, like just filled with honeycomb network. And there's an entire like behind the scenes video of this whole process, and it is absolutely fascinating. So they in the music studio, like back in their shop, they're like opening up and they're trying to like, they open it up and they realize that like they're gonna have a real challenge to like put the neck back on this thing, and like put the bridge on. So they get this like mad scientist of a musician to essentially MacGyver this thing back together.
Okay, we just arrived back at Tyler's workshop. He's been working overnight and see if he was able to make this thing playable. Put the neck on and the bridge and able to string it. And I think he can do it because he's a mad scientist genius.
No doubt. None.
Yeah, he's a mad scientist genius. I'm sure he's figured out some amazing way to get the neck on and get the tension right of the violin so that we can play this thing on the soundtrack.
He's a singular genius. He's a very unique individual and highly talented and capable.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Because there was larvae inside of it and they didn't want to get out, like scoop that all out, literally,
Yeah.
like while recording the violin for this movie,
Yeah.
bees were hatching.
Yeah.
And then they would have to take the violin outside, like shake it off, bring it back in, and
Yeah.
like they're recording music to Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey with bees actively like giving birth.
Man, those are some freaking confused bees. Hey, just like, what the f- is going on?
As the bees hatch, I keep them in that bin, and like twice a day I take the bin outside, open it up, and they fly away. So I'm just gonna keep doing that as I record the score for Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey, and it was an incredible trip.
I am going to post a photo or two of this on our Instagram page because this is insane to me that this happened. I don't know whose idea it was, but it is one of the wildest looking things.
Yeah.
And just the fact, like, does it add to the movie? I have no idea.
No,
but it is.
But this composer,
A for effort, man.
he is really interesting because I was watching a few more videos on him, and he had this like kind of cello looking thing, and like the body of it was a cow skull or like a bear skull or something, and then it was like and I don't even know how to describe it, but he just like would make these strange instruments, and you know what? It all works in a horror movie too.
Oh yeah.
You don't got to have these beautiful. If anything, you want it to sound a little bit eerie and off, right? So these kind of like weird instruments, they work for it. Very, very cool.
Absolutely. Like the music jumped out at me while watching it. I was like, man, this is really good music for a micro-budget horror film. It's got some really deep driving notes. You know, it sounded very Hans Zimmerish at times. And then you watch the behind the scenes footage and you're like, I'm listening to like the vibration of strings against honeycomb in this stupid film. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
You're like, I could go for some honey right now, just licking your lips. Or you start just
one
like,
of the most
bzz, bzz, just start turning into a bee.
You know, I've watched a lot of movies and I've watched a lot of behind the scenes features on different music, like the musical instruments they invented for movies like Dune and stuff like that. And it's all very neat, but I've never ever seen somebody play an instrument that had actively had animals hatching inside of it.
Yeah, it is absolutely wild. And, you know, I think they should have threw that into the marketing of this movie a little bit more, because I feel like that would get a few people.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's worth watching this movie just because that exists.
Yeah.
But you don't see it. Nobody talks about it. I was of all the things that are viral about this movie, the bee-filled violin is not one of them.
Yeah. Definitely cool, though.
Yeah. So 1,000% worth defending. Things like that elevate movies like this for me, where you watch it and you're like, this is kind of a turd, man. Like what am I, what's to like here? But then you get into it and you're just like, oh, that's insane. Like, I can't believe they did that, you know?
Yeah, totally. So, Dan, with that being said there, would you like to talk about the second movie here? But before we get into that, let me ask you like a couple questions, because in watching this movie, because whenever you get one of these low budget slasher horror film movies, generally they tend to be a little bit more campy. But I found myself in this movie being like, kind of disturbed. I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do. So at the end of the day, I think I was walking into this thinking like a comedy horror or something, but this is like psychological horror is what I would call it. Because like I was saying, a lot of things didn't seem very fleshed out. So from my perspective, this is how I saw it. So Christopher Robin, they say that he leaves for college.
Yeah.
And they say I'm pretty sure in the movie he's gone for 5 years. And I'm just thinking about this in my rational human way, right? Where I'm like, okay, so Christopher Robin found these, these animals. I don't know what you would call them in this found Winnie-the-Pooh and friends,
Yeah.
and was like childhood friends with him. He would bring them food. He would steal them food. He would do all these like adventures and stuff. And then he leaves for college. So we're supposed to assume he's maybe 18 years old, leaving to college. And he only, so, he's probably, what would you say? It's safe to say that he found them when he was like, let's go 7 years old, right?
Yeah, pretty young.
He spent more time with Winnie-the-Pooh and friends than he actually has spent time away.
Yeah.
What happened in that 5 years that what happened to the trust that they had?
They became feral and developed a hatred to all things human. And in particular, Christopher Robin.
It raises all these questions for me where I'm like, well, what was Winnie Pooh and friends like when they were younger? Were they like grotesque looking beasts then too? Yeah, and like just so many questions in this entire movie, and like I just didn't feel like there was I was like, what? Like, it's not a big deal. People go to college all the time. 5 years, not that long. This is an overreaction, Winnie the Pooh. You should not be murdering people. You should just wait for your friend to come home from college. But with that being said,
what a silly old bear.
Yeah, right? Stick to your honey. Don't mix your blood with honey. But yeah, Dad, so with that said, please enlighten me. And I really hope that there was something to flesh this out more.
I am about to blow your mind.
Okay, I'm excited.
With blood and honey.
Ooh, hot.
Before I jump into it, there are going to be major spoilers for Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey 2 starting now. So if you want to see it without spoilers, I do recommend shutting this podcast off now. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For everybody else, we're going to dive into it because we have to talk about this.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Aaron, in part 2, we find out that the entire first movie, Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey, is actually a movie reenactment about what Christopher Robin went through.
What?
So in the second movie, Christopher Robin is played by Scott Chambers.
Okay.
Is recast. So the first movie exists in the universe of the second movie, but it's a movie that got made about the massacre at the 100 Acre Woods.
Okay.
So when we pick up with Christopher Robin, he's having a really hard go at life because a lot of people think that he's the murderer because he went around telling everyone that it was Pooh Bear and it was Piglet. So there's one camp of people that believe him and are like, Christopher Robin supporters. And then there's one group that literally think he should go to jail or be fried in the electric chair. He's having a hard go. He loses his job. He was like a nurse, but no one at the hospital is comfortable with him doing stuff because they all think he's a killer.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, it excuses just about everything in this film because it is a film within a film. Now, the funny thing is you would think that with the first movie doing so well in the box office, that they would just keep pumping out micro-budget horror films.
Yeah.
But I watched an interview with Rhys Frake-Waterfield, who actually talked about how all the money that they got from the first one, they just realized that they want to make this bigger and better.
Yeah.
And so the second part is really almost like a reboot in a sense where they're like, okay, now that we have all this money, we can actually kind of do this again, but do it right.
Okay.
I feel like we've done really, really, really well. And so does the crew and cast and a lot of people relative to what we had. And I know when it goes up more, it will really open up a lot more, a lot of other possibilities for me. Because when I'm writing it, I'm coming up with these death scenes. I've always got, because I've got a bit of a producer's hat on, so I'm a bit kind of mindful of the budget, and I'm like, okay, I need to limit it to this sort of area. But then when it becomes a lot larger, those possibilities expand more, and now I can do a lot more fun deaths, and we can have more deaths, we can do crazier things, and just make it even more entertaining. So
the masks are higher quality.
Yeah.
They look different, but they look different because the movie that we had just watched, is the cheap reenactment. It's almost like Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey is the micro-budget horror film within Blood and Honey Part 2, which is like the mid-budget horror film. So it's got Owl in it, and it has Tigger, because Tigger is now public domain.
Yeah.
They couldn't use him in the first one, I found out, but he's in the second one, and let's just say he splits some wigs, that is for sure.
Yeah.
So here's the big twist, and this is a spoiler, but here's the big twist. You find out that Christopher Robin had a brother who was kidnapped along with a bunch of other kids. And there were genetic experiments done on these kids by this guy who was trying to merge animal and human DNA.
Okay.
But the experiments went sour, so this guy killed all these kids and buried them in the ground.
Oh, geez.
But they came back to life. They couldn't die.
Yeah.
So Winnie-the-Pooh, this is insane. I'm about to say this out loud, but Winnie-the-Pooh is the genetically deformed brother of Christopher Robin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And Christopher Robin, Winnie-the-Pooh looked just as scary as a kid as he does in this movie. But Christopher Robin, because he had a young mind and he was traumatized by his brother being kidnapped, he mentally blocked out all like the gnarliness, like watching his younger brother eat like a bunny rabbit by hand or something. You know, like he just like psychologically blocked it all out.
Yeah.
And it was like watching that second part, I was like, oh my God, this is wild.
Oh, you know what, Dan? You are convincing me to give it a chance. I was kind of like, I don't know after this movie if I want to invest in the Pooh-verse, you know. And that's not my own personal Pooh-verse. But yeah, no, but hearing you talk about it, that sounds actually like really interesting. And in just what you were telling me, I had my instant first thought was, oh man, they're definitely taking a page out of Disney's book here.
Yeah.
They're like retconning their own material within their material. It's very, very Disney.
That's why I changed my tune on this. This is the exact moment when I clung onto this and decided, like, okay, I totally can defend this. Because when I saw part 2 and I realized that they weren't just resting on the laurels of the first part and just cashing in, I was like, oh no, the acting's better. The cinematography's better. The music's just as good. The masks are better. The story's better. They're actually saying, "Oh crap, we made some money here. Let's make this something. Let's do a better job on the second one, a better job on the next one." You know, like they're trying to bust out of the Walmart bargain bins and get into the cinemas. And that's when this whole Poohniverse thing won me over. Is when I realized that they weren't just going for a cheap buck. That they want to get better at their craft, and there's actually like some filmmakers here that have some passion. And this funny little retcon they did really drives the point home about how this might not be as cynical as it looks from the outside.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like Disney, whenever they're retconning things, it's like, hey, this isn't doing so well. We're not making enough money. We got to figure out how to, like, you know, reamp things so that we can make more money. But this is people who are like, hey, we made money and we want to polish our product. We want to invest it back into what we're selling. Which, as like a movie watcher, as a peasant, just a regular guy, I love to see stuff like that. So that's really cool.
You know, I was thinking about this. There has to be a term for admiring the connectivity of stuff regardless of quality. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you know when you like watch a bunch of Marvel movies in a row and you're like, oh, that connects to this and that connects to that and that connects to that. It excites you in a weird way, even if it's not that high a quality. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like the joy a person gets from collecting something.
Okay,
you know, when you finally finish your collection of like toy cars or finish your collection of, I don't know, what do people collect these days? You know, like,
Pokemon cards.
But Pokemon cards, right? Like, oh, I finally finished the Rift, whatever. I can't think of a series right now.
I don't know. I just was saying.
Finally got all my
first edition Charizards.
Finally got all my Lost Thunder Charizard cards or something.
Yeah,
and that's what this kind of stuff is going for. And there's got to be a term for this where you're just like, even if this is junk, just seeing it come together elevates it. It's really weird. It really does something psychological to you.
Yeah.
If there is a term for that, just shout it out in the comments because, like, I kept thinking about that.
Yeah, totally.
And seeing Tigger and Owl go nuts in the second one is pretty satisfying. The second one is still pretty mean-spirited, but I would say it's more tonally appropriate.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one's kind of just like, ugh.
It gave you like a little icky feeling. Like you're like, I need to go shower after watching this movie. I need to get this stink off of me.
Yeah, when that one girl gets kind of like exposed and then shoved into like a wood chipper or something.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for, boobies, but that was just like a terrible example of them because my heart sank and I was like, oh, please don't let this be like a rape scene or whatever. Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then he shoved her into the wood chipper or whatever, and you're like, I don't know if this is better. You're like, oh God.
I know.
And that's the first, or not, sorry. I feel like that scene kind of set the tone for me after that, where I was like, I don't know how I feel after that one, but yeah.
I know. You and I sent each other a couple nervous texts there where we're like, oh boy.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think this movie here for sure wasn't the greatest in terms of story, but just so many cool things surrounding it. And even how this movie came about, with the copyright laws expiring, just a lot of cool things surrounding it.
Yeah, there's some mad genius business stuff happening.
This guy, he struck gold with this idea of his.
Yeah, but it took him like 50 films to get here. This didn't happen overnight.
You have to juggle so many hats. And on this, I mean, you can probably tell, like in the credits, if you see, like, I was the writer, I was like the producer of it as well. So I was like booking all the locations, I was doing like everything beforehand. Up until day one of filming, I had to organize the whole production, including scheduling and accommodation plans, travel, insurance, hiring vans, equipment, like getting all the crew and the cast and all of these elements. They kind of, you create a bit of a storm in your head because you've got so many different things going on. I've not only have I got, like the vision of the film, which I'm trying to like focus on and think, okay, what's going to make these scenes really good? I've also got the producing side as well, where it's like, okay, all the logistical issues and all the problems which happen on set, and problems do happen on set, they have to like be running through my head. So
the guy's insane. And even though this success is super controversial in a lot of ways, I think it's well-deserved at this point. You know?
And, I always want to see us pushing the boundary of content, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm all for someone creating something. Obviously, if it ends up sucking and you don't have to make any more, but I always want people to, not being afraid of being creative. And so I'm really glad that this guy wasn't afraid of like ruffling any feathers or stepping on anyone's toes because they have some weird unhealthy attachment to Winnie-the-Pooh.
Right? Oh man, you know what I just thought? I wonder when heffalumps and woozles enter the public domain. That should really mix this series up a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's starting to enter the public domain. So I hope that this is something that catches on with other people, right?
Yeah.
Why not? Original content is dead. Like, why not? Just take something and make it twisted and dark.
Yeah, there's a market. There's a market for this movie and movies just like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might not be specifically the target audience, but at the same time, I think I'm on board now, and I wasn't before, so it is what it is. Aaron, as we pull this bear back into the cave, do you have a WTF moment for this film?
For me, the entire movie was a WTF. I was just kind of like gritting my teeth watching it the entire time, being like, ugh. No, I don't know. Like I said, it really fell on like the dark side to me. And so that kind of caught me off guard. Like I said, I was definitely thinking Thanksgiving going into this movie, which is my own fault for having my for assuming what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably what I would say. What about you?
Mine was the windshield wiper gag where
Oh, okay.
her severed head lands on the windshield.
Yeah.
And the girl behind the truck, her first impulse is to turn on the windshield wipers.
Oh, totally.
And it's like, it just spreads the blood everywhere.
That would also be my first reaction.
I'm pretty sure it'd be everyone's first reaction, but it was just so hilarious. Like the severed head hits the windshield, just turns on the wipers. It was probably the funniest part of the movie for me, but I was like, yeah, I would probably think to do that too.
I also thought the beginning of the movie was pretty funny. Dan, have you watched any of that I Think You Should Leave comedy show with Tim Robinson?
Oh, yeah, all of it, yeah.
Okay, so in the beginning scene when he's like arguing with his girlfriend about like whether he did see them or didn't see them, it totally, for some reason, just reminded me of the Chris Robinson skit where he's like, I used to be a piece of shit. Like, and so it totally gave me that vibes where Christopher Robin was like, these are my real friends, and like the girl's just like, yeah, okay, like sure. Like,
you know, you're the first person I ever shown this place to.
And why am I so special?
Because soon we'll be Christopher and Mary Robin. We should be close now.
We're not going to find them.
We will. Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, we were friends for many years. And they're out there.
Ah, man, yeah. I would say if I had to go with a WTF moment, maybe that first opening scene, because for a first opening scene, I was like, this is terrible. Like,
yeah, it's not a great first impression.
No, not at all. And so it seemed very childish to like their argument.
Well, I recommend if you watch this film, listener, and you think it's not great and dark and morbid, do yourself a favor and watch part 2, because I'm telling you, it really shows where their heads are at and really patches up a lot of the, if you like horror movies and if you like this kind of schlocky, micro budget stuff, I was really surprised. And Aaron, I have 2 questions for you. The first question is, are you excited for the future of the Twisted Childhood universe? Oh,
I am. I'm a content whore, so I think I'm just going to be like, I'm going to eat this stuff up. How about you?
Yeah, I'm on board now. I'm actively ready.
Yeah? You're ready to step into the Poohverse?
Yeah, why not? I've stepped in a lot of poo in my day. Why not this? So, all that being said, Aaron, is this admirable or is this cultural vandalism?
I'm leaning, right from the very beginning, I was leaning towards admirable. Yeah. And I don't think I need to restate all my cases for that. But for me, definitely like the chance that they took on this movie.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, what would you say to recommend this film to somebody?
I would say, hey, you like lesbians? Hey, you like Winnie-the-Pooh? Hey, you like horrors? I don't know. I would just say, I would be like, yeah, if you're a fan of that slasher horror movie, it is a must to watch.
Yeah, totally.
If you're not a fan of slasher horror, then I say maybe stay clear of this one.
Yeah, 100%. Give Pooh a chance.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. I hope you guys are enjoying the new episodes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please drop us a rating and share this with a few of your friends. Let them know that we exist. And check out our social media links. They're all in the episode description. And again, thanks for listening. This has been In Defense of a Movie Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.